All right, so unit 8 is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do this in a little bit of like a 3-day section. And each one is going to have a little quiz at the end of the unit. So this is going to take us to spring break. And every day we will do a brief review. So you guys have seen this, okay? And then there will be some practice. I'll do some. You're going to pause and do some on your own if you're watching the video. If you did this with your teacher, Miss Vogt, Miss Harry, Miss Delmont, it will be the same in class. And then there will be a quiz for you to take. And so there'll be no like end of the unit quiz. It'll be these 3 topics. Same thing. Review together, practice together on your own in class, and then a quiz at the end. And these are the 3 topics we're going to cover: right triangle, trig, law of cosines, and law of sines. Okay, so let's get started with the trig ratio. All right, so these are the ones that we remember, right? Sine, cosine, and tangent. And we have that fun little thing that we say, so, toa. And I know other people write it like big, like this. So, toa. And we do this to remind us that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. And so we need to also make sure that we're saying this word right. And it's theta. It is a Greek letter. Okay, and it's the Greek letter that we use to always stand for angle. So theta means the angle. Okay, and every time I ask you like to find a sine, cosine, or tangent, and you see that theta there, I want you to put your finger on the theta. Okay, so how do I remember which side is which? You can't see me touching it, but I have my finger on theta right now, and I am touching 2 sides. So always across from the right angle. And we know it's the right angle because it has that box in it, right? This is my right angle. But adjacent, right? Adjacent means next to. Okay, and so when I'm touching this theta, my finger touches the hypotenuse, but it also touches that other side, and I am next to it, right? So that's how I remember adjacent. And then opposite is the one farthest away, and that should make sense, right? Those, excuse me, these 3 at the bottom are the reciprocals, that word that we've heard before, reciprocal of sine, cosine, and tangent. And they are cosecant, secant, and cotangent. Okay, and hopefully remember that this is the word sine, because Mrs. Vogt for sure will be annoyed with you when you call it sin. And this is cosine, and this is tangent. Okay, so the reciprocal, what do I mean by the reciprocal? Well, look at this. Cosecant, instead of O over H, is H over O. Okay, so if you're using this one here, okay, well, cosecant then is H over O. Secant is H over A. Cotangent is A over O. And then I just remember that these don't match up, right? Because it's super easy to mix up. You're like, oh, sine and secant both start with an S. That's not how they match up, okay? Sine and cosecant are reciprocals. Cosine and secant are reciprocals. And tangent and cotangent are reciprocals. All right, so how do we use this? That's enough talking about it, Mrs. Vogt. Okay, well, I'm looking at this triangle here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is label my sides. So when I'm looking at this, I see the right angle. I look directly across. This is my hypotenuse. Okay? I put my finger on the theta, so I see my angle. Next to it, the one I'm also touching, is my adjacent. And the one farthest away is my opposite. And then I always write this on the top of my paper. I've been teaching for like 9 years. I took math in high school. I took math in college. It does not matter. I always write it at the top. It is a good reminder, and it will help you every time to make sure that you label these correctly and then use the correct trig ratio. So I'm just going to write these as fractions right now. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. 36 over 60. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. 48 over 60. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. 36 over 48. Okay, now I can do the reciprocal identities, and I just flip these fractions. Okay, because cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. Secant is hypotenuse, oops, I was writing the same thing, hypotenuse over adjacent. And cotangent is adjacent over, adjacent over opposite. Okay, so just flipping all my fractions. Okay, that is my example. Now, when we are using our calculators, okay, there are buttons for all of these. They are in the trig menu in Desmos. You have them right in the middle of your TI-84 calculator, and they are on your phone. I will warn you though, if you are typing in, for example, sine of 60, you type in sine of 60. If you're typing in sine of 60 here, you're going to type in sine of 60. Okay, if you are typing it in on your phone, you have to go 60 sine, right? Your phone wants it a little bit backwards, so just be really careful of that. And then we all need to make sure that we are in degree mode. So if you are not getting the right answers, you need to make sure that you are in degrees. All right, so it says solve for the missing sides. Solve for the missing sides. First thing I'm going to do is label. Okay, so I have a theta right here. This is my theta, my angle. Okay, so that means I have to label. This is my hypotenuse. Okay, adjacent and opposite. All right, it says solve for x first, then y. So when I'm looking at x, I see that x is my opposite side, and I also have my adjacent side. So opposite and adjacent, see how I need this? I should write more clear. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. So tangent, and then the angle is opposite over adjacent. And I should write the number there, 46. Okay, so I want to solve for x. So to get x by itself, I'm going to multiply both sides by 46. So x equals 46 times tangent 38. So bring up your calculator. And I'm going to type this in. Okay, and I would tell you either use parentheses or type in the 46 first, because if you don't, your calculator may multiply those together. Okay, so I recommend not doing it that way. So trig functions, tangent of 38, and I just said not to do it that way. And I'm going to say 46 times this. I get x equals, and I'm going to make sure, look at, I'm not in degrees. That didn't seem right to me. Degrees, x equals 35.4. Okay, so if you don't know how to change from radians to degrees on your, on Desmos, it's in that little wrench at the top. All right, and so now we need to solve for y. Okay, so I need to find a little more room. So I have x, I have my opposite. I'm just going to do this though one more time by saying a and h. So I'm going to use cosine this time. Need to get rid of this for a second. Cosine of 38 degrees is adjacent over hypotenuse. And I need to solve for y. So these can take 2 steps because the first thing I am going to do is not multiply by 46, but multiply by the denominator to get y out of the denominator. So now I have y times cosine 38 equals 46, and then I can divide by cosine of 38. So y equals, and let me bring my calculator back up. Okay, and make sure that I'm still in degrees. And I'm going to take 46 and divide by the cosine, oops, not the secant, but the cosine of 38. Okay, and I got y equals 58.4. All right, so that's solving for one using tangent and cosine. Sine would be similar. All right. And our last example that I'm going to do with you is this one. Pedro is trying to figure out how tall a tree is. He estimates that he is 60 feet from the base and that the angle of elevation to the treetop is 60 degrees. How tall is the tree? So let's label everything first. Okay, my angle here, theta. I have my right angle, which means this is my hypotenuse directly across. Adjacent is right next to my theta, and opposite is opposite of my theta. Okay, so it looks to me like I am searching for the opposite and I have the adjacent. And I'm going to use tangent because of my opposite and adjacent. So tangent of 80 equals opposite over adjacent. Multiply both sides by 60. So 60 tangent 80 equals y. And I have a feeling Desmos is going to put me back in radians. So I need to be back in degrees. So 60 tangent 80 gives me 340.3 feet. I believe it was feet tall. Okay, your job now is to pause. And I am going to make sure that these answers are published, but you are going to do these and check it. And once you have the right answers, then you move on to the quiz for the day.